Okay, so in this video, I'm going to go through what causes the thyroid to secrete T4 and T3 into the bloodstream, and what causes a goiter to form. Okay, so we're going to start at the hypothalamus, which is pretty much the master gland in the endocrine system, and its overall function is to control homeostasis. Now it does that by releasing these, by secreting these releasing factors and also secreting release inhibitory factors. Now, for the sake of the thyroid gland, the releasing factor that the hypothalamus secretes is the thyrotropin releasing factor. Now, it's made up of a tripeptide, which is made from protein. It's actually a very small unit of protein. It's 3 amino acids, and it's made of proglutamate, histidine, and proline. And the hypothalamus secretes that into the bloodstream, where it's picked up by the anterior pituitary. And the anterior pituitary releases thyrotropin, which is also called the thyroid stimulating hormone. Or the thyroid stimulating hormone. So this is released by the anterior pituitary. These are both in the brain, the hypothalamus and the anterior pituitary. The anterior pituitary is a glandular aspect of the pituitary, and the posterior pituitary, which is not here, is mostly made up of nervous tissue. So after the anterior pituitary secretes thyrotropin, thyrotropin is then picked up by the thyroid gland, and it's the thyrotropin that causes the thyroid gland to release thyroxine and triiodide thyronine, or T4 and T3. Now, this is pretty much the on switch. This is what causes the thyroid gland to secrete T4 and T3. Where a goiter forms is these feedback loops here that I have in red. When these aren't working properly, you get a goiter to form. So if you don't have enough iodine, you can't produce enough thyroxine and triiodide thyronine, because these are the 4 iodine for thyroxine and 3 iodine for triiodide thyronine. So if you don't have enough iodine, you're going to form a goiter, because T4 and T3 actually go to help turn off the hypothalamus from secreting this TRF, this thyrotropin releasing factor. And T4 and T3 also go back and help the anterior pituitary shut off the production of thyrotropin. So this is called a negative feedback loop. And thyrotropin also acts in a negative feedback loop here for thyrotropin releasing factor. So that's how a goiter forms, is when you're unable to shut the system down. And my speculation here is that when you look up goiter, it just says an enlargement of the thyroid gland, generally speaking. But thyroglobulin here, that is the prohormone, or the precursor, that makes thyroxine and triiodide thyronine. And it gets cut up in the lysosome, and that's where it's added to iodine. But thyroglobulin makes up about 50% of protein by mass in the thyroid gland. So my speculation here is that the thyroid gland is producing more thyroglobulin in response to trying to produce T4 and T3. It can't, so it builds up and helps form a goiter. That's my speculation. So make sure you're getting enough iodine. But in my next video on the thyroid gland, I'm going to go into a lot more vitamins and minerals, and even hormones that are required for T4 and T3 both to be synthesized and to function correctly. So 2 other points here in closing is that the thyrotropin releasing factor, again, is made up of protein, so you want to be getting enough protein in your diet. And this is a tripeptide made of proglutamate, histidine, and proline. And the thyrotropin, or thyroid stimulating hormone, is made from a glycoprotein. So make sure you're getting enough protein. And the glycoprotein, those glycoproteins have saccharides attached to them, which are sugars. So these are carbohydrates. So you want to be getting, I imagine, some carbohydrates in your diet as well. One other aspect here is that I put the quantity of these hormones here to, in these cross arrows. So thyrotropin releasing factor is secreted in nanograms. Nanograms is 10 to the -9. So you take a gram and you move the decimal place to the left 9 places. That's how much TRF is secreted by the hypothalamus. This is a vanishing amount of hormone. And thyrotropin here is 10 to the -6, so that's micrograms. So take the gram, move the decimal place to the left 6, and then the milligrams here for T4 and T3. So you take again the gram and you move the decimal place to the left 3 places. So researchers, it took 2 researchers 3 million hypothalamuses or hypothalami, 2 million from cows and 1 million from pigs to just find this vanishingly small amount of TRF in the body to help determine its existence. Okay, so goiters form primarily because of a lack of inhibition feedback loop. Make sure you're getting your iodine and get your proteins, because this is a protein as well, protein, peptide, and get some carbohydrates in your diet. And in my next video I am going to go into much greater detail about all the vitamins and minerals that you need to get your thyroxine levels up and to have it function correctly.